All right, everybody, we're going to try and get started. I think some of you aren't muted, so if you could mute yourself, I'd appreciate it, unless you need to ask a question, which we're going to ask that all questions be held to the end of the session because I prefer that you give us a chance to cover everything and hear us through and then hit us with questions so we don't get off task as far as our flow on this. For anyone that just joined, there's no sound. David, can someone confirm there is sound?
I can hear. This is Mike Mickey.
Okay, great. For those that may have joined since I've announced that the handouts are in the meeting, the little red dot there by the hang up button has got the handouts in it. So if you want to check those out, we'll also make those available on our Finance and Audit webpage at the conclusion of the two sessions we're going to hold so that we can make sure any edits are captured in what we put out there. I appreciate everyone joining us. We got 93 folks online. I want to state that this session is for band managers or boards and not for private providers. That being said, if you're a private provider and you want to hang out and hear this, that's fine. There is a small impact on residential private providers as we adjust residential rates for private providers related to the day program. So that one part is applicable. But again, I don't really see that being necessary for you to attend this just to hear that. You will see that those rates are adjusted when we send out amendments. But anyway, so if you're a private provider, feel free to drop off. Again, this session is going to be repeated Friday. For those of y'all that want to hear it again or get interrupted and need to leave midway or what have you, want to invite another staff member to attend that maybe you didn't ask to attend today, we will repeat it Friday. Hopefully there won't be anything new that we discussed Friday that's not going to be discussed today unless you guys trip us up somewhere and we made a mistake somewhere. We'll also record this and share it on our Finance and Audit page for future reference. We're recording this one, but we're probably going to use the Friday one most likely to be the one to be put out just because the Friday one might be better if we have a lot of questions that we need to address in our presentation. Okay, with that being said, the first thing I'd like to do, there's an agenda that I've shared with everyone. You should have 3 items. The agenda, timeline chart, and some handouts that Deborah Lefford's going to go over in a bit. So if you'll do an inventory on those, that's what you should have at your disposal. Let me know if you can't find that for some reason. And just to get a couple terms out of the way, when I use FFS, that's fee for service, and when we're talking about payment schedules, what I'm talking about is for those of you all in finance, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We pay a payment half a month in advance for the following month. So for example, this mid-December payment coming up is actually for January. So when I'm talking about payment schedules, I'm talking about not the month that the payment is made in, which is December, for example, but the January 1st payment schedule. So I just want to clarify that. So that's used consistently throughout in regards to the timeline chart as well as the agenda. So what we're going to do first is just give a broad overview of timing, and then when we get down to number 5, that's when we'll get into the meat of some stuff. So again, if you'll hold questions till we get through this, because like I said, I'm just trying to give you, I felt like it'd be best if we gave a broad overview kind of how this flow is going to occur. So that you could kind of wrap your head around it instead of us just jumping right in with both feet in the deep end and you guys being lost from the get-go. So I think a broad overview would be very helpful. If you have the ability to look at the chart at the same time as the agenda, that would be very beneficial. So what I want to do, if you look at the chart, I may have missed something. I kind of threw this together this morning. I was like, a chart would be really helpful, not only for you, but us, to be able to visualize the flow of all these moving parts. So hopefully I haven't missed anything on here because it was a last minute thing I added. So what you've got is on the right hand side 3 different columns for January, February, and March. Now of course fee-for-service is going to continue past March, so I didn't do April, May, June, and in the next fiscal year. We're really talking about, you know, these first 3 months coming up and things kind of flowing and getting going and getting into a routine. So again, when I'm talking about January, for example, 1st and 16th payment schedules, that one of those would be in December and one of those would be in January. So I'm not talking about what we pay you in January. We're talking about the payments we make for January. All right. So if you look at what's going to happen here, well, we've got one payment schedule that we're working on right now. We have contract amendments we're working on right now. So when we talk about January, some of this is actually this week stuff that we're going to talk about. And again, Deborah is online and she'll talk more about what's happening right now that you will see this week happening. So from also, I want to say before we jump into this that we are going to break this training up into 2 pieces, not only 2 sessions now that are repeats, but we're also going to do another session in January that'll be more focused towards really fee-for-service type issues, you know, like printing desals and different things related to the logistics of actually fee-for-service, whereas this is all transitional stuff. The things that we need to do in January are more, okay, this is how things are going to happen from now on for the foreseeable future. All right, so again, I'm not going to steal into Deborah's thunder, but we'll hit this really, really quick for January. Like I said, she'll dive into that deeper, but we're truing up your Band B and I folks through mid-November. So what that means is people that have changed, come in or gone out, amendments have been completed, and Deborah will talk about that. The 60% recoupment of your lost day program revenues. We have computed that and we'll be sharing that information. That has already been added to the payment schedules. What we will do is issue a memo to you to explain how we computed the amounts and give you an opportunity to question or challenge what we've computed. Because of the timing of everything and needing to get this stuff rolling, we really didn't have the time to send that out in advance, and our word's good. We're going to, you know, address that if you have an issue, obviously. It's worth noting that once we did the 60% recoupment calculation, again, that's lost day program revenue, not 60% of the band. When we did that calculation, as well as running your fee-for-service at-home units for day program for July to September, the net impact of those 2 amounts statewide was a loss of about $2 million. And actually 4 boards are going to get a check because they opened their day programs and they made up that 60% and more. Now they're not huge checks, they're all over $10,000 each, but the point is they're not going to have any recoupment because they've done a really good job of reopening. And so it's worth noting that when we net that out, we're talking recouping 7.2% of your band. So I know there's a lot of folks that want to know how FMAP's being used. We would not have the luxury to do this the way we're doing it if it were not for our FMAP that we're receiving. So I continue to hear the mantra and the comment that there's been no FMAP. You all are benefiting every day from decisions we make and things we don't have to do and things we can do because of our fiscal situation, much of it due to FMAP and a lot of it due to a lot of the operational adjustments we've made. So we paid out $27.3 million in Band Bs and Is for 1 quarter, July to September is what those total. We're talking about pulling back less than $2 million. So 7.2% of the band. I think everyone, when they get these numbers, if you've been estimating the way we told you to estimate, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. That's some of the feedback I've received from some folks that had a need to know immediately because maybe lines of credit were being challenged or renewed or other issues were happening where they needed their number. And so the feedback I've gotten so far is folks are really happy with their numbers. So once we share that with you, I think you'll realize, that it's a good situation. The structure that we put forth before the commission and that they approved, the way we did this. So the other point I'll make is, I have to rely a lot on Ben Orner to pull stuff for me, and he had pulled a lot of data for me, and he was on vacation a little bit last week and this week. Something came up, and I thought, oh my God, I wonder how we handled that. And so we huddled up this morning when he got in, and we have validated that when we did the fee-for-service retro payment for the first quarter that's going to be on your payment schedule, we actually have Haskell waiver stuck in there, so that would be a duplicate payment if we're already paying that fee-for-service. But it's only $31,000 for the entire quarter for 6 providers, so we're not talking about a lot of money. So we'll have to make that adjustment on the next quarterly. We'll true that up when we do the second quarter, or October to December recoupment and fee-for-service, and we'll also make sure that the Haskell waiver units are not stuck in there for that quarter. So in January, again, credit reports pretty much are going away. You'll have just a very small, the numbers we've run, there's very small credit reports that you'll still get hit for your residential consumers because they're still in bands. And that is the last credit report that came from you was September's that was taken in December, and then October's credit report is going to be split into 2. If you look at the finance manual, for y'all to have access to that, Chapter 10, 10.18, number 3, in the SERB finance manual says that, the January payment schedule is going to use October's credit report. So that credit report is split. And so again, when we go into January's training, we're going to talk about how to run your credit reports, how to run your Medicare Part D. We'll talk about the revised finance manual and all that stuff at that time. And then on February, we didn't have time. Again, there was a lot of data flying around, and we really didn't have time to get the fee-for-service for job coach or support employment finalized. One of the issues we're having is we literally have 3 different rates for this service line, and we were having some internal discussions on how to handle this because, just to give you an idea, for IDRD, if we don't do split rates and we pay you what we get paid, $16.48 for a 15-minute unit, $16.48. CS waiver is $21.95 for 15 minutes, and Haskell waiver is $5.11 for 15 minutes. So as you can see, we talk in our commission meetings all the time about we have revenue issues. That's one of the examples of where really Haskell waiver has been neglected by folks in my position in making sure those rates have kept up. For example, also for day program, we get $31.29 a half day for CS and IDRD, but only $19.64 for Haskell. So, if we pass through those rates to you guys, I don't think you'll be very happy that we send you those rates. So we're, having conversations here, just to make sure that we do this properly and fairly. So when we run the fee-for-service, I ran the units for fee-for-service total for support employment. We're talking about $500,000 for the whole first quarter. But when you look down into that, the vast majority, or a large portion of that, is private providers who are already fee-for-service. So we've got to go through and take out all the private provider activity and compute that. So we're talking significantly less than $500,000 we owe you guys as a whole for support employment, but that is sitting out there, and we'll get that paid in February. Ben and again, we're talking this morning about how to get that data teased out so that we could do that. Also, so as we get out of the fee-for-service rate split issue, residential folks, now I'm not talking about ICF here. ICF is a different bird, but all your non-ICF residential placements have a day component built into the band. And so I've already gone in and recomputed what those rates will be, bumping it from $27.50 to $31.29 based on how many slots, how many of those people attend day program, you know, and it varies by band. So for example, you know, folks in SLP1 attend day program a lot less than folks in CRCF. So we've gone back and recomputed that. We're not at a point yet to release those numbers. We're still doing some testing internally, but those will also be issued as an amendment and retro back to July 1. Those figures are included in the option 1 gap analysis where we did the retro day program fee for service estimation. That's not only at home folks, but also residential folks. So it's two pieces, and the January payment that I just went over is one piece of it for 1 quarter, and then you'll get the second quarter of that in a little bit. I'll go over that, and then you're also going to get the residential component. Now for ICFs, getting out of that split rate, again, that's about $700,000 statewide. I've computed that rate as well, and it will be band T, I think is the band for that. And we will also do a retro amendment for that and payment for that increase. Starting in February as well, we have worked with our regional fiscal agents to ensure that they can split their payrolls. So thank you to Charles Lee and Jasper if you're on the line, because that is a lot of extra work for them to do for us. Basically, any payrolls they're processing that involve a recoupment, they are going to split that payroll for us, and we will recoup from providers through December and then pick up the rest of it January 1 forward. And again, when we do the January training, we will talk to you about how you run your reports and figure all that out so that you can validate and test that calculation when we get around to that. Also in February, we will remove all the band Bs and Is, and I'm going to let Deborah talk about that again here in a little bit, so I'm not going to spend any time on that, just to mention it. Same with item F. We're going to issue a slate of new contracts. One's a new contract and 2 are contract revisions. She'll go over that as well. And then in March, and again, the reason the timing of this is we need to give folks time to get their desals and everything submitted and all of our billing correct. It doesn't pay to rush things because we can get things incorrect if we try and do stuff too fast. So it's really important that people continue to turn in their day stats and their ISRs, individual service reports, for all their billing on a timely basis. And especially as we go fee for service for these things, you guys want to get paid. So getting these things turned in real timely has a direct impact on your cash flow now. So in March, we will compute the second piece of the 60% recoupment. Again, that's only going to happen through the end of December because we're going fee for service January 1, so that recoupment will go away going effective 1/1 when we pull those bands back. We'll also pay you fee for service at that time for the remainder of the at-home retro and also the support employment retro second piece. So all that'll happen in March payment schedules, but it'll probably actually be your February. It'll probably be your February payment for March 1st, most likely. So hopefully it'll be on that very first payment schedule for March. Again, all the data will be shared with you all as we go through this. All right, at this point, I'm going to open this up to, oh, wait a minute. In March also, and again, Deborah's going to talk to this, we will also, since we only in January, right now on your December payment that you're about to get in your amendments, that's only through mid-November. So we've got to go back and figure out what band B and I changes have happened from mid-November to December 31. And Deborah spends an inordinate amount. This is a very, very, very tedious and manual process that Deborah has to go through. We have been looking at ways to try and automate this and streamline it for her, but just have hit a brick wall every angle we go. So she spends weeks going through these and having very tedious comparisons. So she said she can try and get that done in March to get the November and December adjustments done. So with that, Deborah, I'm going to kick it to you. If you would please take over for me.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. You should have in your handouts a summary that says Band B, BI fee for service and your contracts. It has numbered items that we're going to go through that, and there are 5 attachments that you can refer to. They're samples just so you can see how this stuff is going to flow. For this fiscal year, your contract, your appendix is not going to look that different. And the amendment that you see for this January 1 fee for service, you're going to still see the B and the I on there. It's when we hit fiscal 2022 that things will start looking a little different on your appendix. So the first thing that's going to happen, and actually these amendments are finished and are in the queue to go out. I just kind of wanted to wait until after this training. You're going to see an amendment for the B's and the I's, like Chris referenced. It's a reconciliation for this fiscal year for any people that came in or out or transferred from July 1st all the way through about the middle of November. The funding amounts that you'll see on these amendments are for the entire fiscal year, which is a little bit deceptive, but that's the way I had to do it. I had to pay you on paper for the whole year so that we could take everything nice and cleanly on January 1st. Those amendments, like I said, they will be coming out and tomorrow via DocuSign, and you will see attachments that have the names of all the people you're getting paid for or that are leaving. But that will get us trued up, and that's the number that I will use for the January 1 changes. So what you see on your appendix that you get in this amendment, if you see that you have 100 Band Bs and 90 Band Is, that's the number I'm going to use for the January 1. As Chris mentioned, there's going to be about 6 weeks of people coming and going in the B's and the I's. I have to wait till after December 31st to make sure we've picked up everybody, and that will be handled in a subsequent amendment after the fee-for-service conversion amendment. And what you will see in that amendment is you'll see if you got a new Band B on December 1st, I will pay you for those 31 days. So you won't actually get a B, you'll just get the money for that time period. Hopefully that makes sense. And that'll be for anything that happened, pluses and minuses from July through December. Okay, for January 1st, I kind of did a mock-up that kind of flows through all these attachments so you can see how it's going to look. The Band B and I slots, like I said, if you had 100 Bs and 90 Is, as on that January 1 amendment, you're going to have 0 Bs and 0 Is. They'll be taken down to 0, as will all the minimum required units, day units for those slots. You will still see funding in those areas because that's the money that's left there for the first part of the year, and that B and I section will stay on that appendix until the end of this fiscal year. The dollar amounts that will be taken for each B and I will be taking back 181 days. As of December 31st, 184 calendar days have been provided, and there's 181 days left in the year. So on your attachment, you can see how that breaks out and the math. The Band B divided by 365 times 181, that's what we're taking back for the B and the I there. It's pretty simple math. Those amounts will be multiplied by the number of Band Bs and Is that you have on your amendment that you're getting this week, and that will be the amount you see taken from the capitated contract. And on your attachment B, it shows a breakdown just like you get on your amendments. This amendment will look just like any other amendments, just a much larger amount, but it's the same process. So you should be able to follow that pretty easily. The at-home adult day, we had broken those out at the beginning of this fiscal year, so you had your residential and your at-home separate. The at-home folks are going to be reduced down to 0. And we're also going to remove all those minimum units. This is being removed since we're paying that fee-for-service for at-home day program effective July 1. And it's related to the 60% that Chris discussed earlier. The only day attendance requirement that you're going to have left, it will be residential, and it will most likely be increasing for next fiscal year based on historical residential attendance. But for now, for this fiscal year, you're just going to see that residential component left out there. Your Band B outliers will be reduced also effective January 1st using that same 180-day one proration. So you'll see some of you have already, on this amendment I'm sending right now, some of you will see a few Band B outlier adjustments that we had already done back to July 1st. So a couple of you may see those outliers going away. The rest of you will have half of it, or 181 days of it, taken, and you'll see that on your appendix. You'll see the changes down at the bottom under the outliers, and you'll see the changes at the top under the Band B outliers. All the names are listed on your appendix, so you should be able to follow that pretty easily about what exactly we're taking back and who we're taking back for. Next fiscal year, there will be no Band B outliers. This year, you're still going to have part of the year out there for most of those consumers. And that change will be made in CDSS so that you can see the annualized amount reduced in CDSS. We will be issuing an amendment to your capitated contract that's going to remove the at-home waiver services for HASCII, IDRD, and CS. That amendment will read just like any other amendment you get, showing the wording changes. I'll have everything highlighted for you so you can follow it really easily. And then we'll be issuing a non-capitated contract that will basically cover you providing these at-home services. It'll be similar to those contracts that you get for like the state-funded community sports, but this will be a non-capitated format, and so we're pulling that out of the capitated and moving it into its own separate contract. So you'll have another contract, another contract number. Hopefully we'll get those out pretty quickly at the beginning of 2021. Chris mentioned too, the residential bans will be increased and will be retroed back to July 1st. Those rates are going to reflect that pass-through for ICF and the day program increases. That amendment I'll be doing the fee-for-service amendment conversion first. Okay, then we'll do this amendment giving you those increases, and then I'll do the amendment that's going to true up your 6 weeks of Band B and I, and also some of you have some residential changes that are just part of the normal residential change process. So I'd like to get all that tied up by February. So it's a lot, but I'm going to work as hard as I can to get everything out to you so we can kind of have a nice clean slate pretty early in next calendar year. Unfortunately for me, the Band B and I consumers will still be tracked by DDSN internally. But instead of getting an amendment, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep up with who's coming and who's going, and I'm going to assign a Band B or I in CDSS for the time being, just so you have a designation and you can go out to R2D2 and you can run those reports, and it will show you a list of all your people that are approved as Band B and Band I. So until you hear differently, that's kind of how we're going to stay on top of this. I will not be sending any kind of a list of consumers along with the contract, but there is a good report in R2D2 that you can run that shows you that. So that's just something you need to put on your calendar to run regularly. I will be updating these on a monthly basis. I can't do it any more often than that. So like maybe the beginning of every month, I will go out and get that cleaned up for you so you can run those reports.
Yeah, no, we will. That's another example of something we'll be talking about in January, is how to run these reports as well. So
they're really pretty easy once you know where to look for them. Okay, let's see. The payment schedule, on the payment schedule, January 1 amendment, I think it'll be reflected on your January 16th payment schedule, and you will see the reduction in your at-home waiver, CS adult development, and possibly supported employment. This is because when we spread the money at the beginning of the year, we pull out a little bit of the day and the supported employment for consumers who attend and put the money in those columns. So if we took all the money out of your at-home and CS and didn't spread it, it would send you into a negative. So we have to spread it the same way we spread it at the beginning of the year. So I have an example on attachment C that shows you kind of how it might look. It's all going to tie back to your total on your appendix. Your total loss will be reflected on that attachment, that payment breakdown. And then we have a sample payment schedule and a summary payment schedule that kind of shows how this provider, fake provider that we were doing, to show you an example here, how it would break down for them. We're not going to take it all out in one check. We're going to spread it. We'll do one catch-up payment so that you will see a double on the first one, and then everything else will be spread evenly throughout the year. So it'll look just like any other amendment that's reduced on your payment throughout the year. So on number 2 under payment schedules, it says it will reflect one catch-up funding, and that I think you can see that pretty clearly on your example, your attachment. And then beginning in beginning July of 2021, which will be fiscal 22, there's not going to be any funding listed under at-home or CS, so that those columns will go away. Your appendix will have some changes. You won't see the B and the I lines anymore, so things will look a little different. But for this year, you still have them out there because we still have money that's been out there. For the attachments, you've got your sample appendix, which everybody should be familiar with looking at that. Now, I changed that a while back, and it explains the amounts that are coming out of your B and your I, and then it shows you the individuals, your day units coming out, and then if you have any outliers at the bottom, the breakdown of outliers, it would show those, what part of those are coming out and what's still left out there for those. Attachment B is the summary of the amendment, which just shows the math, and that's the same thing I attach on all your amendments to show the math of 181 days and multiplying it out so you can follow that pretty easily. At the top, I just gave the amount for the B and the amount for the I so you can kind of have a reminder of that. Attachment C is the breakdown of your payment, showing how it might look, some money coming out of your B outliers, your CSW, your day, and your supported employment, and then the grand total for that amendment. For most of you, it will be amendment number 4. A few of you, I think, are still on amendment 3, but it'll be the next one in line. And then we have attachment D is the way that your capitated portion of that payment schedule would look. And then attachment E is kind of the summary showing how that would spread out through the year. Hopefully that's helpful just as a visual aid to see how all that flows. All right, so Chris, what else? What did I leave out, or what else do we need to mention?
Nothing. I think you did a good job. I think a couple things I'll highlight just in case folks didn't catch it. Under item 5, under B&I, fee for service in your contracts, not only will we be adjusting outliers using the 181 days, but we'll also do a settlement of those later in the fiscal year using true W-9 paid claims data to give additional dollars or take dollars like we've been doing thus far during the fiscal year. So that will be funded band outliers, Band B outliers that we will be adjusting to true those up also. And I think I missed that on my table, actually. Need to add that. And then also Deborah did hit this, but I just want to reiterate it. Between us going fee for service for day program and us doing the 60% recoupment, we obviously cannot have an 80% attendance requirement for at-home folks for the same exact population that we're already recouping on and that we're going to go fee for service for. So that is just totally going to go away. If you look at the examples she gave you, she's taken the minimum units to 0. She has not prorated those. And so that'll make that clear. I've got some auditors that asked about that this year to make sure how they should record any anticipated day program attendance payback. So hopefully that clarifies that for everyone online. Deborah, I don't think there's anything else. I know you don't feel well, so if you need to drop off, go ahead and do so.
Thank
and
you.
I'll try and field the questions if they have them at the end. If might have to forward you an email or something, possibly. But.
People can always contact me as we go through this. I mean, it's a process. So anytime you have any questions, contact me like you do now, call or email.
And a lot of this will be repeated in January as well. I mean, it's important that as we step through this is kind of a sip of water from a fire hose type meeting here where it's just a lot to digest. We've been working on this for 8 months, trying to work through all this. So if this is your first sip of water from this fire hose, it's quite a lot to digest or to consume. So, we will repeat those things that are germane to the future in our January training as well. So thank you, Deborah, for all you've done. And we'll be chatting with you later.
Okay.
All right, so she hit 5A and 5B. 5C, again, with waiver credit reports. We will go over this in January training, but basically IT has already added the ability to separate the credit report between residential and non-residential folks, and so that's what we're using here to split that credit report, but that'll allow you to still run your credit reports any way you need to run them. And again, we'll have screenshots and updated finance manual and all that for you at our January session. Medicare Part D, that has been split also into residential and non-residential. Again, that's because you're managing the bands for folks in residential still, so that's part of the expense that's always been borne by boards, financial managers. So that will continue, but it's being split based on their status, and that's one reason we have to track these B's and I's still, is to be able to separate this type of stuff. Also, the regional fiscal agent payrolls versus you keeping this stuff locally. Some boards are asking about moving to the regions. We need to assess our capacity at these two boards. They're not bottomless pits of capacity. They've got staffing limits and things of their own. Additionally, we've negotiated an admin contract with them that will need to be adjusted if we start getting a run on the bank in regards to folks wanting to go to their payrolls. One thing I'm struggling with is why boards, how they see this as a decision point to make that decision. It kind of puzzles me because this doesn't change anything. You still got to report the respite utilization to us just like before, and you're going to get reimbursed. So I'm not really sure, but if folks are wanting to do that and these regional providers have the time, and the Respite Coalition does as well, then we will individually approve those, but we need to review it and we need to manage it. We just can't have 25 boards converting over to these regions. They can't handle that kind of volume. So that is something we will facilitate. And I've got to talk to Mary and Pat. I did talk to Robert for a while at Charles Lee about this, and he in particular, I haven't talked to Jasper yet, but they don't have any capacity right now, so we would have to adjust their admin contract to allow them to add a new person, which I've got to talk to Pat and Mary, like I said, about that conversation. Board build services, this will be training as well in January, where we will go over basically how you will go about getting funds from us for those items that the board is still paying through their respite payroll, their board payroll, or through accounts payable. So there will be a process that I'm thinking is going to be very similar to either state funded community supports or HASKI waiver. Again, finance is really busy working on developing the forms and the procedures and the manual so that we can train you all on this. But again, this really isn't pertinent until February. I mean, so if we train you in January, you're not even going to be turning bills into us until February. So we feel like that was something that could wait, and again, make it easier for folks to digest. Putting that in another meeting felt like something we should do. And of course, you'll still get administrative costs, just like you do for the other things, the other admin cost processes that we have set up. Again, in January's training, we'll talk about, we've got new reports set up where we can run the day attendance logs and the individual service reports for just at-home folks, and then we're going to run those by provider, not by financial manager. So when we get down into number 7, essentially we're going to pay the provider of the day service, not the financial manager. So that'll undo some of this craziness we've been having in regards to boards having a contract with one another and so forth, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So that will also be in the January training, and we will show you how to run those reports and how to validate all that. One thing I will tell you, just kind of to wet your palate a little bit, we are going to be eliminating a lot of the requirements for you guys to sign stuff and upload it to RBC. We've had several meetings here since Debbie's been here, I know, trying to figure out what we can do to eliminate you guys having to print things, sign them, and upload them. It just seems silly. So we have finally, as a team, agreed that we're not going to make you turn in signed EI bills and case management bills and so forth. Same with these DSALs and ISRs. We're going to set up a process where you guys understand your responsibility and role on your end when it comes to submitting these things, and the fact that you're attesting to their accuracy and that you've reviewed them. And then we're just going to run a series of reports on our side and pay you. And we'll go over this in January, but there'll be another little payment schedule that we've created that'll have all these little pieces paid on one payment schedule, so that again, we don't have all these dribbles and drabbles running all through. So you'll basically have, a contracts-based payment schedule that Deborah just went over that you're used to getting, and then another payment schedule that'll have all this other tiny stuff on it. We just think that'll be a lot more efficient if we implement all that, and it should save you guys and us a lot of time. But we'll go over that in detail in January. Please don't bombard me with questions at this point unless you have ideas. If you have some concerns or something you want to express in regards to that decision, please do email me about that. But otherwise, again, the training will be done next month. Item 6, we are going to create a waiver contract. So we will be pulling out IDRD, CS, and HASKI out of their existing contract locations. And this will only be for 6 months. And then going forward in come July 2021, they won't be shown at all in your capitated and non-capitated contracts. So when they're in this waiver contract for at-home, well, actually, that's not actually true. The at-home piece of waiver is going to be pulled out. The waiver folks that are still residential, so in other words, IDRD is going to have to stay in the capitated contract when it comes to the residential piece. So it's going to get a little wonky, but in a nutshell, what we're trying to accomplish is when we go fee for service, we shouldn't be recouping with you guys. So we're already paying Haskell waiver fee for service. Why that's in the non-capitated contract and subject to the 95% spending requirement, I have no idea. It's just the way I inherited it and never really saw that rise to the level of something I wanted to address. But at this point, we need to get that out of there. And then, of course, CS, you're not going to have any activity really on that. Everything, that's all going to be coming through us because they're all at home. And then your B&Is, your IDRD folks that are at home, it'll remain split. But to the extent those are at home services, you will no longer have a spending requirement, and the 3-month reserve will remove. But see, the thing with the 3-month reserve is you're still going to have that obligation under all your other contracts. So until we go full fee for service, you're going to always have that 3-month reserve requirement. It's just not going to be coming out of this contract. But when we do go to fee for service fully, I think, don't hold me to this, but I think the current mindset is that needs to go away. There shouldn't be spending requirements or reserve requirements at that point. I know management feels that way, but we need to present that to our commission and make sure they're agreeable with that. So anyways, that'll be a new contract, and we will amend the other two. And I don't know how all that's going to look. We've started working on draft language, and we've got boilerplate stuff floating around internally trying to get that right. But I will mention too, for everybody on this call, the human service providers have asked us to have a meeting to talk about the contract language for next fiscal year. We are going to set up a meeting with all providers, not just the human service providers, to go over the concerns folks have expressed with some of the language in our contracts. But we're not going to be amending for those this fiscal year, but we certainly will consider that. And I think these will be part of that conversation as we look to how they need to be worded for next fiscal year. And we'll get probably in February, we'll get an invite out, and we'll hold a meeting and give everybody ample time to know that they need to review the contracts and come with their concerns. Item 7, third-party day services for at home. That's key. You might want to double underline at home or circle it or something. So if you're a financial manager and you no longer have bands that you're managing, then you don't need to be the one paying a third-party provider. So let's say you got a board A who right now is getting a band B for Johnny, and Johnny goes to board B's day program. Currently, you all should be contracting with one another to pay board B for their day attendance plus absences up to 20%. That is going to go away entirely for contracts between band managers and contracts between a band manager and a private provider. What will remain, though, is if you have a residential consumer, which I don't think there's a whole lot of those, maybe in the private provider world there are, you will have a residential consumer that you are still going to be the band manager for, and you will have to have, thing just flickered. All right, I hope we're still live. You'll still have to have that arrangement, and again in January we will talk more about this. But what your rate needs to be changed to 31.29, and the attendance component removed. So we're going full fee for service. That's what you're going to have in your band. That's what they'll be paid. So you won't have to track that 20% attendance anymore. You'll just pay them the higher 31.29. Again, we'll go over all that in January because this is a lot to digest. But just know that is going to be resolved, and I think the vast majority of this is going to go away. So board B in this scenario, it's going to show up on their DSAL when we run the day log or the ISR or whatever it is, and we'll just pay them. And so that whole chase of money, is going to be gone. So thank goodness. I know that's annoying. So, anyways, that's great. And then over enrolled. folks that aren't familiar with that terminology, haven't been around for a while or just never heard that, basically, when capitated funding was started, DDSN allowed folks to bring people into the day program to supplement their actual attendance, but did not fund their attendance. So in other words, I had 30 approved day slots, but I had a lot of folks maybe that weren't attending regularly, and I was going to have some issues with my 80% attendance. I call this slot sharing. So basically you've got, 5 people that don't regularly come, so you go out and find 5 other people that'll help share that slot or attend. We gave you no money for those people. You were serving them for free, if you will, and you were using your savings from the folks that weren't attending. So with over-enrollment, when we go fee for service, we are going to grandfather everyone that is, we've already run this report, so you guys, we can't have a bunch of people try and hurry up and over-enroll some more people. We've already got the list, and we'll be sharing it with you to have you validate it. But we're going to grandfather those folks, and they will be funded, state funded off the DSAL based on actual attendance. If you have private pay people, they will need to remain private pay. This is not going to change the decision that was made that DDSN wasn't going to fund that position. So this over-enrolled population is a set of folks that will not change. They will only decrease over time. And then we are going to do what we can for those that are attending regularly to get a waiver slot for them if they're waiver eligible, so that they will get, we're not using state dollars if that's a possibility. So we are going to pay you for over-enrolled people at $31.29, just like you are. Even though we don't get paid, you will get paid.
Yeah, I'm going right back.
Someone have a comment? Okay.
No, I just want to say that even though our screen is down, we're still good.
Okay. Yeah, I see it's here. I don't know what happened up there.
It happens.
All right. One thing I need to, this is imperative, item 9. Just because you're not being billed for the waiver credit report and respite does not mean you don't have an obligation still for oversight and monitorship of those services if you're the authorizing party. So, we will be doing some things here to look at these things, but ultimately, let's say the service didn't get delivered or there's some issue with it, you're still going to be subject to recoupment, even though you didn't get the band. We paid you fee for service for a service. It's your job to make sure that it was delivered, even if it was direct billed to Medicaid for your folks. So you can't change your monitorship. It's going to have to look the same, which is why when we do our training in January, you're still going to need to see the full credit report for community supports waiver, HASKI waiver, and IDRD, regardless of whether they're at home or not, because your case manager should be reviewing that, and that is billable activity. For you all that aren't using your case managers to, you can run those by case manager, I believe, and share those, and that is part of your monitorship, and it's billable activities that help you get your billing up for case management. So it doesn't cost you anything to do that, and you get paid to do it. So, and you can lose a lot of money if you're not doing it, and there's an error. So you just make sure that just because you're not being held responsible for that through a recoupment, that you think somehow you're off the hook for review. Item 10, we are in the process of doing our acuity review for residential bands. We have started getting some trickles in of those, so please jump on that. That is urgent. That's something we need to really get on. Mary, I don't know if you want to speak to that real quick.
I would like to speak to that. Right now, what I'm seeing is that we have to go back and remember what the word swap means. Okay, we have got I've got a couple of requests in here, and they were all increases, band increases. They're requests for band H's. If you don't have a G to swap with them, don't want to see them yet. That's step 2. And I really think that you need to look long and hard at the folks that you serve, and this is the honor system. I mean, we're going to go in, eventually all these folks are going to have to go through assessments when we get down the road. It'd be very smart of us to have them where they're supposed to be now. So now's the time to swap those bands. So if you're giving me a request for an H band from a G, then I should be seeing a corresponding swap from a person who needs to go from an H to a G. So let's remember what the word swap means. If all you're going to do is ask for band increases, then that's step 2. That is not step 1. Okay? Thank you.
So everybody should have received those forms. If you have not received the forms to fill out, please email me and we will get them to you. So please jump on that. Item 11, again, this is a January topic that we'll go over, but we are working here to land on what our loan/advance rules are going to be. It's not going to be a free-for-all that we'll just give you whatever you ask for. There's going to be some analysis and some parameters set around it, including if you want a loan or need a loan or advance, you're going to have a mandatory operational review by our fiscal team, just because we need to make sure that you're operating in the most efficient manner possible. And of course, when we've issued these letters, we kind of give you all the kitchen sink. Our goal is to provide so many ideas that you can pick and choose those that make the most sense. You may on a local level go, I don't agree with this, but our goal is to give you so many suggestions that even if you don't do every one of them, you can address your operational issues. So when we have a board that has a gap loss, there's 2 aspects to it in my mind. One is, if the agency has a negative gap, in other words, they were making money off B's and I's, either they were using those monies for legitimate service level needs, which we're trying to address through the acuity process, as well as looking at rates still with HHS, or you have some operational things going on, and it could be both. So, our goal is to take a 2-pronged approach to this, and it does nobody good to loan money. It's like a payday loan. It's a cycle. So if you're going to borrow money but then not fix your operations, you're just going to keep coming back for more and more. And I can tell you DDSN is not going to be willing to continue that type of approach. It's not. Again, we've actually got some rules we have to comply with loaning money to providers. It's very particular how this has to be done to stay in line with the state laws that are out there. Anything you want to comment on that, Debbie?
Not at this point.
Okay. The finance manual is under major rewrite. It will look significantly different. This is chapter 10 that you all are familiar with. Again, that's on our finance and audit page if you don't know what we're talking about. If you're a finance person and you don't know what chapter 10 of the finance manual is, you really need to make yourself familiar with that document. I mean, it's very important. It's part of your Bible as a finance director. And we could actually use some critical feedback on that as well. We're here in the daily grind, and we may not realize there's something in there that isn't clear or is even wrong. So we are going through that right now. Our team is analyzing that document, that chapter, as well as several forms. And we will be reissuing that in January sometime. And then the final thing is we have to change our capitated funding directive, which is 250-10-DD. We're in the process of reviewing that. In a nutshell, it refers to B's and I's and B outliers, so obviously that needs to change. And in fact, we want to look at, and I'm not saying this will actually happen, but it is being discussed, whether we can get out of the residential outlier business and just make a high management rate, because that's what it's going to look like when we do go fee for service. You're not going to have, we give residential fee for service, there will be no outliers. You will have a high management rate, and that high management rate is developed based on averages and analysis, and you may make money on it or you may lose money on it. So we're trying to position ourselves for the next phase of fee for service and be mindful of where we're headed to get out of this capitated system entirely. So as we move through this first part, we are really trying to position ourselves and the provider network for these changes that are coming. Now, the problem is we've got culture change, not only here, but HHS and then also providers. So there's a lot of work to be done in this area. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight. We are re-engaging with Mercer, and they're actually going to be working more closely with DDSN to help develop these rates so that we can get some residential levels, and there might even be some regional type variation. We're looking at that as well. If there need to be some kind of regional high cost area, if you will, type of rate. And again, all that's just being explored. We've got subject matter experts and HHS and our team here. And then again, Mercer engaging with that whole situation. All right. In regards to the directive, when we edit that, it will go out for public comment. We have a ton of directives that are going to be revised this fiscal year in the next 4 or 5 months, actually. So for you all that are not familiar with the public comment process, or the commenting process for directives, if you want to bite at the apple and you want to give feedback in regards to these directive reviews, keep an eye on our emails and meetings and so forth, so you can see, and it's on our website, so you can turn in your comments. And what we do is we aggregate those comments, and staff is required to answer those internally as to what our response is going to be, and then make any revisions and bring it back through the committees and commissions. So there's going to be a lot of directive changes, and in fact, if you go to our list of directives right now, even though their directives aren't out for revision for public comment, you can still comment on them. So if you want to comment right now, for example, on 250-10, go to our list of directives, go search for that number, just how I usually find our directives, or type in keywords through a search. And there should be a comment link there. You can comment anytime you want on existing directives. So you don't have to wait till that process is there. So that is everything, and now would be the time to take questions. I'm going to take what's in chat first, and then I'll ask you to unmute and speak up if you have a question you want to ask. So Kathy asks, what rate will DSN be paying to adult day health care come January? I'm not really sure what the question is, because we've always paid adult day health care fee for service. So I'm not really sure. Do you have any idea what that? I mean, it's always been, adult day health care gets what we pay. I mean,
That's what HHS reimburses.
And it's all direct billed. So I'm not understanding. I must be missing something.
We're not splitting that rate.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe you can clarify the question, because I don't know it being an issue. Are we going to release an exposure draft for the redrafted finance manual before final publication for comments? Everything we do, that's not a directive, it's an internal document, and it's more of a procedures manual. And of course, we want critical feedback of that. I would have to kick that to Debbie to answer, or Carol Mitchell, if Debbie says she doesn't know the answer to that process. I don't know the timing we're dealing with and what that process is going to look like.
What are they exactly?
We also know, will they have a chance to look at it and comment on it before it's finalized? Well,
the Finance Chapter 10 manual was designed for DDSN. So the plan was, and I was talking with Carol about this morning, is that we're going to revise it. I'm hoping by January 15th. The thought to put it out for public comment was really not ever talked about in the past, because it was an internal document for DDSN.
I mean, I think the answer is we're open to critical feedback on any document we issue at any time. It's not written in stone. It can be revised. It's a procedural manual.
I think we kick it out. We can make it clear, fine. I don't know if we'll any feedback's good, and I think it
Yeah.
certainly is positive. They'll devote the time to
Yeah.
listen to the feedback for sure.
Well, and it goes to my point earlier is, if you get the finance manual, I made the comment that we're in the weeds here. So as we look at stuff, things may change and we don't even realize that the finance manual needs to be updated. So every day you can comment on, hey, I was looking at the finance manual 10.18 and this doesn't make any sense. I don't think it's right. Can you guys look at it? And so we're always open to that type of feedback. So whether it's released in draft form or anything like that, I can't say that we'll have the time to do that. We'll certainly edit it if it's not clear. Anything else on that?
No.
Okay. Can you please email the attachments out? I'm having issues. Sure. Well, what I stated is we're going to put it on the finance and audit resources page, so I don't intend to email it. I will throw it out there for you guys to access in that manner. Adult day health care is in their bans. Well, not effective January 1st. Effective January 1st, we are paying all the direct billed adult day health care. And if they are I'm not aware of any adult day health care being a board billed.
No,
Not in.
it isn't. It's only direct.
So, I mean, you're not going to have a credit report anymore for B's and I's. So we're picking up all that. So again, the only thing you should be paying still for B's and I's on your end is day program and job coach. We're going to pay you that fee for service. And then if you have your own fiscal agent payroll for respite, or if you pay an assisted tech or something out of your payables, that's the only thing you're going to have coming out of your.
They can have a residential person that's going to an adult day health care, so maybe they're referring to the residential piece.
All right, that's not a band B or I.
No, it is not.
So it's exactly
The same, it's not changing.
right. Okay. Yeah, Kathy, if you will connect, I don't know who Kathy is. I know some Kathys, but connect with me offline. I want to make sure I'm not being dense. So if you will email me separately or call me after this meeting, which actually I'm not going to be available probably until Friday with my schedule, but let me know and I'll follow up with you. And if we've overlooked something, we'll certainly clarify that. So go ahead and continue typing your questions, or if you'd like to unmute yourself, please do that. And we'll sit here and wait to see if anyone has any questions or comments.
Ralph?
Ralph's attending Friday.
Oh, darn, I thought I got a chuckle out of him.
Anyone out there, are you having trouble unmuting yourself? If you are, chat in the box that you can't unmute yourself, and I'll see if I can unmute you. All right, well, we will be giving the commission an update tomorrow on this training, and let them know some of them are actually attending this right now. If you hadn't noticed, some of them are online currently. Give them an update on this, and Friday we will do it again. It appears to me, unless this ADHC issue is really an issue, that our existing handouts and documents we've given you are solid. So we will basically do an entire repeat of this session Friday. If you want to hear it again, feel free to attend. What would be the benefits of a board keeping respite payroll in-house? Well, control. I think my perspective of it is you're interacting with a third-party payroll provider, just like if you had Paychecks or any other payroll provider, and now you've got another entity that you're dealing with regarding timesheets and approval of hours and authorizations and whether they're your consumer or not. And to me, personally, I don't see the appeal of the regional payroll thing myself. I prefer to have that in-house if it were my choice. It's not that big of a deal to do a respite payroll and remit the taxes. Usually it's a monthly tax depositor, and 941s and all that comes straight out of your system and are fairly simple. So I think the only advantage that might be there, if you want to flip that, would be if Charles Lee and Jasper are reporting the unit utilization to us, you may not have to report that utilization, but I'm gonna kick that to you.
I'd like to answer
is
that
that how?
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Having worked at the board and having worked at DDSN, for me, it's all about customer service. When you have 60, 70, 100 individuals that are receiving respite, they're now dealing with a third party that they don't know. That was significant for me when I was in Anderson. I dealt with those respite individuals, the caregivers, on a constant basis, and it becomes far more difficult and less customer service oriented when it goes to a third party. I myself, if I was at a board, I would want it back for that specific reason, that they feel they have a person that understands them, that knows them, that they can talk to. When you go to a third party, and I'm not in any way saying that they're not getting that from Jasper or Charles Lee, but when you go from dealing with 60, 70 people to dealing with 1,500, it's significantly different. And you can give a one-on-one response to somebody when they're your own, and you know them. You know the families at this point.
I think it's logistics. I don't see the time savings. I don't know if you, after that change, if you felt like it.
Anderson at the time had about 65 to 70 individuals. And the person that did payroll did that also. And it usually took them between, I would say, 2 and 4 hours a pay period in which to process. And we had everything set up. Everything was set up on Excel spreadsheets so that we could determine whether they were trying to submit more than what their authorized units were. I felt like we had complete control over that. On the other side of the coin, as a board, it's almost, when you get overwhelmed and a lot's going on, it's almost easy to say respite is one thing I don't want to worry about. And that's where I see the influx of wanting to go to a third-party provider, because you can go, and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
I don't agree with.
You don't agree with what I just said?
Well, no, I agree with everything you said. I don't agree that you can wipe your hands of it. I think that's the fear, is that people think out of sight, out of mind, they don't have to do anything anymore. Baloney. They're still your people. They're still your authorized units. You still have to oversee that that the service is actually being delivered, that there is no overtime being generated, that it's not going over the authorization, that you don't have a provider falsely turning in payroll records. Now you got to get with Charles Lee or Jasper and get their payroll timesheets, and there's this whole interaction between two boards now in very time-sensitive manner to review and authorize payment. Then you talk about, well, when can I download it from R2D2 to see what's been paid? There's a time lapse there. To me, personally, I'm not going regional, but folks may want to do that. And again, I'm with you. I'm not bashing Charles Lee or Jasper. They do a fabulous job, but I'm with you 100%. I would keep that in-house. I had boards that I worked with that made that decision to take it, and came to me afterwards and said, whoa, if I'd have known all this, I'd have stayed where I was. So anyways, to each their own. We're not trying to tell you what to do. I just think logistically, and I think there's a false sense of the time savings that's there. And I think back to customer service, that's a very valuable point you made there. Let's see. on Bambi and I, are they calculated 260 days or 365 days? Well, if you look at the handout, Betty, that Deborah gave us, it's a 365 day. It's every calendar day. 260 days is only weekdays, and that's only day program. And B's and I's get way more than just day service, which is why you only had a 7% reduction in your B and I when we did the recoupment. If it was all day, it wouldn't have been 7%, it'd have been 98% of us recouping your band. So it's a 365 day service. Stephanie, one of our commissioners, Ms. Rawlinson, says thank you all for attending. She hopes that it has helped you all give you a better understanding of this plan and put your minds at ease. Stephanie Rawlinson, 7th District Commissioner. Ralph, there he is.
Ah, Ralph.
He's not disappointed.
See? I know.
We need to do a news article on Ralph.
We do.
Have it in the Post and Courier.
It's already been done.
I always wanted to make sure you guys were kept busy. Some of this is getting so complex all at once, it looks like we need to slow down. But in the long run, I do think it'll simplify things. Well, my assessment of this, Ralph, when I look at it, actually, if I'm looking at this as a fiscal person or an operational person, this is ultra sensitive, ultra simple. Once you get this, any change is hard. But the way I'm looking at what we're talking about and what this, you don't have third-party people to deal with anymore. You don't have to sign case management and EI bills and send them anymore. You don't have to send anything in for your DSAL or your ISRs to get paid in addition to submitting those documents. You have all the direct bill credit reports. You're not having to worry about reconciling all that as far as your payments and your audit and your cost reports and all that stuff. It's all teased out of there. To me, we're making a major move to simplification with this. I think because it's brand new, it seems very stressful, which I don't disagree with, actually. But I think come March, April, May, providers are going to look at this and go, wow, if we move residential this way too, this is going to be so much easier.
Ralph, when I looked at it, the way I processed it was, we have the fee-for-service change, but what adds to complexity is we're doing the day recoupment, and we're doing the retroactive rate increase. So we're doing 3 things at once. So I do see the January, February being a little bit more complex, but when you get into March, those second and third components are gone, and then you're back to what Chris said, which is, I think, a much simpler world for the fiscal people. But I do believe the next 2 months is going to have a few extra wheels turning.
If a board is not interested in a cash advance or loan, but is interested in financial checkup, is that available? Yes, it is. In fact, every time you turn in your quarterly report, one of the check boxes on the quarterly submission is that you request technical assistance from DDSN. If you check that box, you'll get a call from us, and you don't have to wait to do your quarterly. I'm not saying you can't request it otherwise, but that availability to us is there every single day. And quarterly, you get a chance to let us know you need to talk to the internal audit, you need to talk to us, what have you. So yes, most definitely. Now, one thing I will say is if you're one of the boards that's not struggling right now, you're probably going to go down on our priority list. We got 9 boards that we really, really are concerned about that we need to help first. And then we will certainly prioritize your agency, if you're not one of them, as quickly as we can.
Can I throw out a name? Matt Coburn, who is relatively new with the agency, is going to be the ultimate individual that will be working with the boards directly for those that need assistance, and then we will farm out work that will be reported back to him, but he's going to be the catalyst at DDSN for analysis for any providers.
Right. And he's already working on 2 right now.
He's working on 2 right now, that's correct.
All right. One downside for respite I'll share is that getting info from Jasper and Charles Lee has been like pulling teeth. just for your information for anyone to consider.
Can they send me the issues that they're having at this point?
This is Williamsburg.
Okay. Tell Faye I'll give her a call.
Follow up with Ronnie.
Ronnie? Okay.
I can get you her email if you want.
I got it.
All right. Soon, most boards won't be doing the case management monitorship for individuals on the waiver, so their hands will be free. Yes and no. I mean, I sent out a memo yesterday stating that providers can go outside their home counties with just asking basically to do so. So, yes, if you give up case management all the way around, I agree with that statement, but it appears some boards are going to try to hold on to case management and just expand their footprint, and in which case, no, they can't wash their hands of it. So, yes, once the case management, we've got to work closely with Lori and her team with case managers, because I recognize that, and Pat and Mary may want to comment on this too when I'm done, but we're going to be asking, there's a lot that we're asking case managers to do, and I think, there's been a lot of change for that group of employees. But, part of their job is to monitor these services. So it becomes imperative that as we move conflict-free, when we train our case managers and we oversee the quality of their product, that we see evidence that they're monitoring these things. I don't know if y'all want to comment on that or not, but I mean, they're the keeper of the authorization, they're the keeper of the service, but I'm not a case manager, and you were.
Well, they're responsible for that authorization, and since we don't have a system that actually ticks it down, they should be making sure that the units provided don't exceed that authorization.
They're supposed to also check on satisfaction and
yes,
all that, right?
Do all the three legs of the stool, so they need to be doing that, yeah. But that's the case manager's job, and that is quite a billable service.
All right. Jerry says, hi, Ronnie. If you have concerns about us providing information to you, I suggest that you contact us directly to share your concerns as opposed to making such comments in public. Just not appropriate. Well, I would assume that Ronnie had made that. She probably can send you some emails, I'm sure. But anyways.
It's here.
All right. Is there anything else? All right, well, I'm not seeing or hearing any additional questions, so we'll call this meeting to a close. Please do reach out to me through email, because again, I've got meetings all day today and tomorrow, and let me know if there's anything we said that you think needs better clarification or could stand some extra effort Friday. I'd appreciate it. And thank you all for attending, and strap on your seatbelt and put on your helmet. It's going to be a fun ride for the next 3 minutes.